Jake Morrison stood at the edge of the massive council chamber, watching alien beings float, crawl, and shimmer across the polished floor. His hands were sweaty inside his formal diplomatic gloves. After 3 years of training for this moment, he still felt like a farm boy who had wandered into a palace. The Galactic Convergence Council station orbited the dead world of Kepler 442c like a giant metal flower. Its 12 petals each housed a different alien species. Today, all of them had gathered to meet the newest members of galactic society. Humans. Remember what we discussed, Director Helen Carter whispered to her team. Her gray hair was pulled, back tight, and her blue eyes were sharp with warning. We are here to listen and learn. We are not here to make suggestions. Jake nodded along with the others. Dr. Robert Hayes adjusted his thick glasses and checked his notes for the 100th time. Ambassador Lisa Torres smoothed her black suit and practiced her diplomatic smile. They all knew the rules. Earth needed this alliance. They could not mess it up. The chamber itself was beautiful and terrifying. The ceiling stretched up so high it disappeared into shadows. Strange lights moved like living things across the walls. The air smelled of ozone and something sweet that made Jake think of flowers from another world. A deep sound filled the room. It was like a bell, but softer. The aliens began moving toward their seats. Jake followed his human team to a small section near the back. The message was clear. New species sat in the cheap seats. Elder Voss approached the center speaking platform, the crystalline being moved like light through water. Each step made tiny musical sounds as crystal touched crystal. When Voss spoke, the voice came from everywhere, at once. "Welcome, humans of Earth," Elder Voss said. The words felt warm in Jake's mind. "You join a community that has known peace for over 2,000 years. Today, we share with you the wisdom that keeps this peace." Jake leaned forward. This was what he had trained for. As Earth's first xenobiologist, he wanted to understand how 12 different species worked together. His military background had taught him that different groups usually fought each other, but here was proof that cooperation was possible. Elder. Thane drifted to the platform next. The gaseous being had no solid form, just shifting clouds of purple and gold. Small machines floated around Thane like metal fish. When Thane spoke, the machines made the sounds. "Young species often believe they understand the galaxy quickly," the mechanical voice said. "They learn that survival requires more than good intentions. The galaxy has dangers that cannot be reasoned with or befriended." A chill ran down Jake's spine. Something in those words felt like a warning meant just for humans. Elder Kree clicked forward on 6 legs. The insect-like being was smaller than Jake expected, but the way other aliens stepped aside showed deep respect. Kree's multiple eyes caught the strange lights and threw them back like tiny mirrors. "The most dangerous threat to galactic peace are the Ravagers," Kree said. Each word came with sharp clicks. "They travel in packs across the star systems. They consume entire colonies. 17 worlds have fallen to their hunger in the past century." Jake's breath caught. 17 worlds. How many billions of lives was that? Elder Voss took the platform again. "The Ravagers are massive creatures, like your Earth wolves, but the size of your bears. They travel in ships grown from living tissue. When they find a colony, they strip it bare. Nothing remains but empty dirt." "Have you tried talking to them?" Jake asked before he could stop himself. The chamber fell silent. Jake felt Director Carter's angry stare burning into the side of his head. Ambassador Torres made a small sound like a hurt animal. Elder Kree's multiple eyes all turned toward Jake. "What did you say, young human?" Jake's mouth was dry, but he had already started. He had to finish. "I asked if anyone had tried communicating with them. Back on Earth, we learned that most predators have reasons for what they do. Maybe the Ravagers have reasons, too." The sound that came from the aliens was unlike anything Jake had ever heard. Elder Thane's machines made whirring sounds like mechanical laughter. Kree's clicks became rapid and sharp. Even Elder Voss's crystal body rang with musical notes that felt like mockery. "Oh, young human," Elder Kree said through the clicking sounds. "Your species always believes it can befriend the unfriendable. You think love conquers all, yes? You will learn. The galaxy is not as kind as your small blue world." Elder Thane's machines spun faster. "Humans still believe in fairy tales where the monster becomes a friend. The Ravagers have no interest in your friendship. They have no interest in anything but feeding." Jake felt his face turn red. Around him, his team looked like they wanted to disappear into the floor. Director Carter's jaw was so tight, it looked like stone. Elder Voss spoke more gently, but the words cut just as deep. "Your optimism is charming, Jake Morrison, but it is also dangerous. The Ravagers cannot be reasoned with because they are not reasonable. They are hunger-given form and ship, nothing more." "I understand," Jake said quietly. But inside, he was not sure he did understand. Something about this felt wrong. Predators on Earth were dangerous, yes, but they were not mindless. They had patterns. They had purposes. Even the most dangerous animals could be understood if you knew how to look. The council meeting continued. Jake tried to pay attention as the elders explained trade routes and territorial boundaries. Earth was being given a small sector on the galaxy's edge, far from the important worlds, far from the trade centers, and most importantly, far from Ravager territory for their protection. "Your sector has 17 star systems," Elder Voss explained. "Rich in rare minerals, poor in habitable worlds. Perfect for a new species to learn with." Jake recognized the words beneath the words. Earth was being given the galactic equivalent of a backyard sandbox, somewhere safe to play while the adults handled important matters. After the formal presentations, Director Carter pulled her team into a private meeting room. The space was small and gray, very human, very boring compared to the grand chamber. "What were you thinking?" Carter demanded. Her voice was quiet, but Jake could hear the fury underneath. "We are guests here. We do not question our hosts about military matters." "I was just curious," Jake said. "The way they talked about the Ravagers seemed—" "Seemed what?" Dr. Hayes asked. His voice was tired. "Incomplete," Jake said. "Like there was more to the story." Ambassador Torres shook her head. "Jake, these beings have been dealing with galactic threats for longer than human civilization has existed. They know what they are talking about." "Do they?" Jake asked. "Or do they know what they have been told?" Carter stood up so fast her chair fell over. "That is enough. Jake, you are off the diplomatic team. Effective immediately." Jake felt the words hit him like cold water. "Director, No," Carter said. "You embarrassed our entire species today. The council thinks we are naive, children. And you proved them right. I am recommending you for transfer to deep space research, away from anything important." Jake looked around the room. Dr. Hayes was staring at his notes. Ambassador Torres was looking at the wall. Nobody would meet his eyes. "I see," Jake said. He stood up and walked to the door. Before leaving, he turned back. "For what it is worth, I still think there is more to learn about these Ravagers." Carter's face was like ice. "There is nothing to learn except how to avoid them. That is what we will do." Jake left the room and walked through the station's corridors. Around him, aliens moved with purpose and confidence. They belonged here. They knew the rules. They understood their place in the galaxy. Jake Morrison, apparently, did not. But as he walked, one thought kept returning to his mind. 17 worlds, billions of beings, all destroyed by creatures that nobody had ever really tried to understand. Maybe being transferred away from the important work was not such a bad thing after all. Maybe it was exactly what he needed. 6 months after the council meeting, Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the research vessel New Horizon. Through the main window, he could see a green and blue planet spinning slowly below them. It looked like Earth, but the continents were wrong shapes. The clouds moved in spirals that made his eyes hurt if he looked too long. "Beautiful world," Captain Mike Stevens said, joining Jake at the window. Stevens was a solid man with gray hair and kind eyes. He had been commanding research, ships for 15 years. "Shame we are only here to catalog bugs and rocks." Jake smiled. "Bugs and rocks are interesting too." "Not to the people who sent us here," Stevens said. His voice was careful. They both knew why Jake was really on this mission. The diplomatic corps wanted him as far away from important decisions as possible. The New Horizon was not an impressive ship. She was old, small, and made strange noises when the engines worked too hard. But she was home to 12 people who had all asked, too, many questions or challenged the wrong ideas. Communications Officer Amy Walsh turned from her station. Her red hair was tied back, but pieces had escaped to frame her young face. "I am getting those weird energy readings again, Captain." "Same as yesterday?" Stevens asked. "Stronger," Amy said. She was only 26, but she was the best signals person Jake had ever met. "The patterns are more complex today. Almost like..." "Like what?" Jake asked. Amy looked embarrassed. "Like they are trying to say something." Engineer Tom Bradley looked up from his repair work. He was thin and always worried about something. Today he was worried about their engines. "Energy signatures, that talk? Come on, Amy. You have been in, space too long." "I know how it sounds," Amy said. "But look at this." She put the readings on the main screen. Lines of light danced across the display in patterns that rose and fell like music. Jake studied the patterns. Something about them felt familiar. "How long have you been picking these up?" 3 days, Amy said, "ever since we entered this system. They are coming from the 4th planet, the jungle world." Stevens frowned. "That planet is supposed to be uninhabited. No signs of intelligent life in the Council database." "Maybe the database is wrong," Jake said. Tom Bradley made a nervous sound. "We are not supposed to investigate anything outside our mission parameters. Director Carter was very clear about that." Jake looked at Captain Stevens. The older man was thinking hard. Jake could see the war going on behind his eyes. Follow orders and stay safe, or follow curiosity and risk trouble. "We are scientists," Stevens said finally. "Our job is to investigate the unknown. Tom, how long would it take to do a flyby of the 4th planet?" Tom checked his instruments. 2 days there, 1 day scanning, 2 days back. We would only be 3 days behind schedule." "Do it," Stevens said. The 4th planet was covered in jungle so thick that finding a landing spot took half a day. When they finally set down, the air was hot and humid. It smelled like growing things and rain. Jake loved it immediately. The team that went to the surface was small. Jake, Amy, Tom, and 2 security officers. They set up scanning equipment in a clearing and began collecting samples. It was Amy who found the first claw marks. "Jake, you need to see this," she called from the edge of the clearing. The marks were on a tree trunk as thick as a house. They were deep gouges, each one longer than Jake's hand. But they were not random. They formed patterns, symbols. "What kind of animal makes marks like this?" Tom asked. His voice was shaky. Jake ran his fingers along the grooves. The marks were old, but not ancient, maybe a few months. "A very large one, and a smart one." "Smart how?" Amy asked. Jake pointed to the patterns. "These are not claw marks from hunting or climbing. They are too organized, too deliberate. This is communication." Tom stepped back from the tree. "Communication with what?" Before Jake could answer, they heard a sound in the distance. It was low and deep, like thunder that went on too long. The 3 of them froze. "Was that natural?" Amy whispered. The sound came again, closer this time, and then they heard an answer from a different direction, then another answer from somewhere else. "They are talking to each other," Jake said with wonder. "We should go back to the ship," Tom said quickly. But Jake was already moving deeper into the jungle. The others had no choice but to follow. 50 meters from the first tree, they found another one marked with symbols, then another. The marks formed a trail leading toward the center of the continent. "It is like a message system," Jake said, "or maybe territorial markers." They followed the trail for an hour. The marks got fresher as they walked. Some looked like they had been made only days ago. The sounds in the distance continued, always moving, always answering each other. Then they found the burned area. It was a perfect circle, 100 meters across. The ground was black char, but it was not random destruction. Jake could see patterns in the burn marks, careful lines, geometric shapes. "This was not a forest fire," Amy said. "No," Jake agreed. "This was controlled burning, planned." Tom was scanning with his instruments. "I am reading traces of advanced energy weapons." "But the patterns—" He looked confused. "The patterns do not match any weapon in the galactic database." Jake knelt and touched the burned ground. It was still warm. "How recent?" "Maybe a week," Tom said. They spent the rest of the day documenting everything they could find. More marked trees, more burned areas, strange paths through the jungle that seemed to follow no natural terrain. And always, those deep sounds calling and answering in the distance. When they returned to the new horizon, Jake was excited for the first time in months, but Captain Stevens looked worried. "We need to report this," Stevens said. "Report what, exactly?" Jake asked. "That we found evidence of intelligence on a supposedly uninhabited world?" "Evidence of the same intelligence that destroyed 17 colony worlds," Stevens said quietly. Jake felt cold, despite the jungle heat still clinging to his clothes. "You think it was them, the Ravagers?" "The claw marks match the descriptions from the destroyed colonies," Stevens said. "The energy signatures Amy detected match fragments recovered from Ravager attack sites." Jake sat down heavily. "But the patterns, the organization, this is not mindless destruction." "No," Stevens said, "it is not, which makes it even more dangerous. They sent their report to Earth through secure channels. Jake included his theories about the organized nature of what they had found. He suggested that the Ravagers might be more intelligent than the Council believed. The response came back 3 days later. Director Carter's message was short and cold. "Dr. Morrison's pattern-seeking behavior continues to see intelligence where none exists. Humans are known for anthropomorphizing animal behavior. The Council's xenobiology experts have reviewed the data. The evidence shows typical Ravager territory marking and feeding ground preparation. Dr. Morrison's team is ordered to avoid the fourth planet and continue their assigned cataloging mission." Jake read the message 3 times. Pattern-seeking, behavior, anthropomorphizing, the scientific words for saying humans see things that are not there. But that night, Jake could not sleep. He kept thinking about those claw marks, about the careful burn patterns, about the sounds calling and answering in the jungle. On his 4th night of bad sleep, Jake's personal communication system chimed softly. The message was encrypted and came from an unexpected source. "Elder Voss, Dr. Morrison," the message began. "I hope your research mission is proceeding well. I wanted to inform you confidentially that we have been losing ships in your assigned sector, 3 vessels in the past month. Officially, we attribute these losses to space piracy. Unofficially, we suspect other causes. I am sending you the classified data on these incidents. Perhaps your human pattern-seeking abilities will notice something we have missed. But please, be careful. Some truths are more dangerous than ignorance." Jake stared at the message for a long time. Then he opened the classified files. The missing ships had all been science vessels. All had been investigating uninhabited worlds in the same region as the jungle planet. All had sent their last transmissions from planets that showed signs of large predator activity. The last transmission from each ship was the same. A brief message saying they had found something important. Then silence. Jake looked out his window, at the stars. Somewhere out there, ships and crews had vanished while discovering the same things his team had found. The Council called it piracy. Director Carter called it pattern-seeking behavior. But Jake was beginning to think it might be something else entirely, something that the galaxy's leaders did not want to understand. He encrypted a message to Elder Voss. "Thank you for the data. I think we need to go back to the fourth planet. There is something there that everyone is missing. Something important." As he sent the message, Jake realized his exile from the diplomatic corps might have been the best thing that ever happened to him. Away from the politics and fears of the council chambers, he was free to discover the truth, even if that truth scared everyone else in the galaxy. 2 weeks after receiving Elder Voss's classified data, Jake Morrison stood in the New Horizons meeting room, facing an angry Captain Stevens. The walls displayed images of 3 massive ships that had appeared on their long-range sensors an hour ago. "Those are not in any database I know," said Lieutenant Sarah Kim, the ship's security chief. She was a small woman with fierce eyes and hands that never moved far from her weapons. "Each one is twice the size of a council battleship." Dr. Mark Johnson, the ship's medical officer, looked pale as he studied the images. "The hull design is organic. Look at those curves. It is like the ships were grown instead of built." Engineer Tom Bradley was practically shaking. "Captain, we need to leave. Now. Those ships are moving to intercept us." Captain Stevens looked at Jake. "This is your call, Doc. You convinced me to come back to this system. What do we do now?" Jake stared at the alien ships. They moved through space like living things, smooth and purposeful. He thought about the missing science vessels, about the organized claw marks in the jungle, about 17 destroyed worlds that might not have been destroyed at all. "We wait," Jake said, "and we keep our weapons powered down." "Are you insane?" Lieutenant Kim demanded. "Those could be Ravager ships, the things that wiped out 17 colonies." "Maybe," Jake said. "But shooting first never solved anything. If these are Ravagers, we need to understand what they want." Tom Bradley's voice was high with fear. "What they want is to eat us." Jake looked around the room at his crew. They were all scared. He was scared too, but fear was not a good reason to start a war. "Amy," Jake said to their communications officer, "are you picking up any signals from those ships?" Amy Walsh's fingers danced over her controls. Her red hair was messy from hours of work. "Yes, but it is unlike anything I have seen. The signals have layers, sound patterns mixed with electronic data mixed with something else. Can you translate any of it?" "I am trying," Amy said. "Some of the sound patterns remind me of whale songs from Earth, but more complex, much more complex." The 3 alien ships moved closer. On the main screen, Jake could see details now. The hulls really did look grown rather than built. They had a mix of biological curves and technological additions that should not have been possible. "Incoming transmission," Amy announced. "It is on multiple channels at once." "Put it on speakers," Captain Stevens ordered, the sound that filled. The room was beautiful and terrifying. Deep tones like whale songs mixed with electronic harmonics. Underneath it all was something that sounded almost like words, but in no language Jake had ever heard. "They are trying to communicate," Jake said with excitement. "Or they are telling us to prepare to die," Tom muttered. Amy worked frantically at her station. "I think I can isolate the word-like sounds. Give me a minute." The lead alien ship was close enough now that Jake could see movement through what looked like transparent sections of the hull. Large shapes moved inside, but the details were too blurry to make out. "Captain," Lieutenant Kim said urgently, "that ship is powering up. Some kind of docking system. They want to come aboard, Jake realized. Over my dead body, Kim said, her hand on her weapon. That might be exactly what happens if we refuse, Jake said. Captain, I request permission to meet with them. Stevens looked at Jake like he had lost his mind. Permission denied. We do not know anything about these beings. They could be carrying diseases, they could be hostile, they could be anything. They could also be the key to preventing a galactic war, Jake said. Before Stevens could respond, the ship shuddered. The alien vessel had attached itself to their docking port. Through the walls, they could hear sounds of machinery working. Well, Stevens said grimly, I guess the decision has been made for us. The first Ravager to board the New Horizon was enormous. Jake had expected something wolf-like, but he was not prepared for how wolf-like. The creature stood 9 feet tall on powerful hind legs. Its fur was dark gray with streaks of silver, but what struck Jake most were its eyes. They were golden and clearly intelligent. Behind the first Ravager came 2 others, smaller but no less impressive. They wore some kind of technological harnesses that seemed to be part of their bodies. The devices glowed with soft blue light and made quiet humming sounds. Lieutenant Kim and her security team had their weapons drawn but not aimed. Jake had insisted they show caution without being threatening. The Ravagers noticed the weapons, but did not seem concerned. The lead Ravager studied the humans for a long moment. Then it did something unexpected. It sat down, bringing itself closer to human eye level. The gesture was clearly meant to be less threatening. Jake stepped forward slowly. The Ravager's golden eyes tracked his movement. Jake could smell the creature. Now, it smelled like forests and rain and something else he could not identify. Hello, Jake said in a calm voice. My name is Jake Morrison. The Ravager tilted its head, clearly listening. Then it opened its mouth and spoke. The sound was a mix of growl and words that Jake almost understood. Morrison, the creature said carefully. Jake Morrison? Dr. Johnson made a small sound of surprise. It is learning our language in real time. The Ravager stood and moved closer to Jake. It was so large that Jake had to look up to meet its eyes. The creature studied his face for a moment, then spoke again. You are the one who asks questions, it said in rough but clear English. Jake felt his heart racing. You know about me? We listen. We watch. You seek truth, while others seek comfort. The Ravager's voice was getting clearer as it spoke. You are different from your pack leaders. My pack leaders? The ones who speak for your species. They fear what they do not understand. You try to understand what you fear. Jake heard Captain Stevens make a soft sound behind him. The Ravager heard it too and looked toward the captain. Stevens. Mike, it said. Leader of this pack. Good pack. Brave pack. How do you know our names? Stevens asked. We learn fast. Your signals tell us much. The Ravager gestured toward Amy's communication station. Your sound speaker works well. Amy Walsh makes good bridge between our kinds. Amy looked stunned. You understood my translation attempts? We helped, the Ravager said. Something that might have been a smile crossed its face. Communication needs 2 sides working together. Dr. Johnson suddenly gasped and grabbed his chest. His face turned red and he began struggling to breathe. The human medical emergency happened so fast that everyone froze for a moment. Except the Ravagers. The lead Ravager moved faster than Jake thought possible. In 2 quick steps, it was beside Johnson, supporting the doctor's weight with gentle strength. One of the smaller Ravagers was already pulling something from its technological harness. Atmosphere incompatibility, the lead Ravager said quickly. Your medical pack member needs filtered air. The device the smaller Ravager produced looked like a breathing mask, but it was clearly designed for humans. The lead Ravager placed it over Johnson's face with careful movements. Within seconds, Johnson's breathing eased and his color returned to normal. Jake stared in amazement. "You came prepared to help us." The lead Ravager looked at Jake with those intelligent golden eyes. "We came prepared for many things, but we hoped for help, not harm." "Why?" Jake asked. The Ravager was quiet for a moment. Then it spoke a single word that changed everything Jake thought he knew about the galaxy. "Brother." Jake felt something shift inside his chest. The word carried weight and meaning beyond simple translation. It meant kinship. It meant acceptance. It meant recognition of something shared between their species. "Brother?" Jake repeated. The Ravager nodded. "Your species helps pack members in danger. You protect those who cannot protect themselves. You seek truth even when truth is difficult." It gestured toward Johnson, who was breathing normally now. "You are pack creatures like us, but your pack includes all living things." Lieutenant Kim lowered her weapon completely. "You saved our doctor." "Pack members help pack members," the Ravager said simply. "This is the way." Jake looked around at his crew. Their fear was being replaced by wonder. Even Tom Bradley had stopped, shaking. "What is your name?" Jake asked the lead Ravager. The creature made a sound that was part growl, part song. Then it spoke in English. "Your sounds cannot make our names properly. Call me Marcus. It is close enough." "Marcus," Jake repeated. "Why did you call me brother?" Marcus sat down again. A gesture Jake was beginning to understand meant peaceful intentions. "We have watched your species since you reached for the stars. Most new species seek power or wealth or safety. Your species seeks understanding. This makes you unique." "The Council says you destroyed 17 worlds," Lieutenant Kim said carefully. Marcus's expression changed. His eyes became sad. "The Council speaks truth and lies together. 17 worlds died, yes, but not from our teeth, from their own choices." Jake felt a chill of understanding. "What do you mean?" "We tried to warn them," Marcus said. "Their worlds were dying from their own actions. Poisoned air, poisoned water, poisoned soil. We offered help. They chose weapons instead of wisdom." The room was completely silent except for the hum of ship. "Systems. You tried to save them," Jake said. "We saved who we could," Marcus said. "Those who would listen. Those who could learn. The others." Marcus made a sound like a sigh. "The others chose to die with their dying worlds rather than live, with changed ways." Dr. Johnson, still wearing the breathing device, spoke weakly. "The missing science ships?" Marcus looked toward him. "Not missing. Learning. Some of your kind want to know truth more than they want to return home. They study with us now. They learn the old ways of keeping worlds healthy." Jake felt pieces of a vast puzzle clicking into place. "You are not destroyers. You are healers." "We are both," Marcus said. "Destruction of sickness so health can grow. Your medical pack member understands this idea." Johnson nodded slowly. "Like surgery, cut away the diseased parts so the healthy parts can survive." "Yes," Marcus said, "but we prefer to heal before cutting becomes necessary." Jake looked at Captain Stevens. The older man's face showed the same amazement Jake felt. "Why are you telling us this?" Stevens asked. Marcus stood and moved to the window that showed the jungle planet below. "Because your species may be the first to understand, the first to choose wisdom over fear." Jake joined Marcus at the window. "What happens now?" Marcus looked down at him. "Now you choose, Jake Morrison. Return to your pack leaders with old fears, or learn new truths that may frighten them." Jake thought about Director Carter's dismissal, about the Council's laughter, about the missing ships and the 17 worlds and the classified files from Elder Voss. "I choose truth, Jake," said Marcus. Made that sound that might have been a smile. "Then we begin, brother." 3 weeks after first contact, Jake Morrison stood in what Marcus called the memory chamber aboard the Ravager ship. The walls were covered in living screens that showed images from across the galaxy. Jake was learning that everything the Council had told humanity was wrong. This world was called Haven Prime, Marcus said, gesturing to one of the screens. The image showed a beautiful planet with blue oceans and green continents. Home to 12 billion beings. They called us when their world began to die. Jake watched as the image changed. The oceans turned brown. The green continents became gray. Cities crumbled as the ground beneath them became poisoned. What happened to it? Jake asked. Alex, Marcus's pack second, moved closer to the screen. Alex was smaller than Marcus, but moved with the same confident grace. They mined too deep, pulled out too much. Their world's blood turned to poison. Diana, the pack's healer, touched controls that Jake could not see. She was the most gentle of the Ravagers, with silver fur and kind eyes. We offered to help. Our ships could move their people to healthy worlds. Our technology could begin healing. Haven Prime. It would take 200 years, but the world could live again. They refused, Marcus said quietly. Their leaders said accepting our help would mean admitting failure. They chose pride over survival. Jake felt sick as he watched the final images. Ships leaving the dying world. Not Ravager ships, but small escape pods carrying those few who chose life over pride. The rest stayed behind and died with their poison planet. How many worlds like this? Jake asked. All 17, Alex said. Every world the Council says we destroyed. We saved who we could. The rest, Alex made a sound like grief. Over the following days, Marcus showed Jake recordings of every attempt the Ravagers had made to contact the Council peacefully. Jake watched ancient videos of Ravager ships approaching Council space with signals of peace. He saw those ships being fired upon without warning. This is why you avoid the Council, Jake realized. Your Elder Kree's ancestors were among those. Who shot first? Diana said sadly. They saw our ships and decided we were monsters. The shooting began before we could explain why we had come. Marcus activated another screen. This one showed recent footage of Council military preparations. Jake recognized the ships and insignia of all 12 member species. They are planning something big, Jake said. They are planning our extinction, Marcus replied. We intercepted their communications. They call it the final solution to the Ravager problem. Jake's blood turned cold. When? Soon, Alex said. When our packs gather. For the Great Convergence. Every 100 years, all shepherds meet to coordinate our restoration work. This year, 300,000 of us will be in one place. It would be genocide, Jake whispered. Yes, Marcus said, and we cannot let it happen. Diana activated another screen. This one showed Ravager ships that Jake had never seen before. They were larger than the ones he knew, and they bristled with weapons. You have warships, Jake said. We have defenses, Marcus corrected. We hoped never to use them. But if the Council forces us to fight, many worlds will burn. Council worlds, and ours. Jake stared at the screen. The Ravager warships were beautiful and terrible. He could imagine them sweeping through Council space, destroying everything in their path. Billions would die on both sides. There has to be another way, Jake said. Marcus looked at him with those intelligent golden eyes. What do you suggest, brother? Jake thought hard. Back on Earth, he had been trained as both a scientist and a soldier. Scientists gathered evidence. Soldiers sometimes had to act on incomplete information. Right now, Jake needed to be both. I need to contact someone, Jake said. Someone on the Council who might listen. The Council will not believe you, Alex said. They will say you have been corrupted by us. Maybe, Jake said, but I have to try. Marcus was quiet for a long moment. Then he spoke. There is a way to share truth that cannot be doubted, but it is dangerous for both our species. What kind of way? Diana moved closer. Her voice was gentle but serious. A neural link, mind-to-mind connection. You would experience our memories as if they were your own. We would understand your thoughts and feelings the same way. Jake felt a chill. Has this ever been tried between humans and ravagers? No, Marcus said. It might kill you. It might kill me. But the memories we shared could not be faked or doubted. Any council technology could verify them. Jake looked around the memory chamber. He thought about the dying worlds, about the planned genocide, about the war that would destroy both civilizations if nothing changed. How long would the link last? Hours, Diana said. Long enough to share centuries of our history. Long enough for you to understand who we really are. And for you to understand us, Jake added. Marcus nodded. Yes, we would know humans as you know yourselves. Jake made his decision. Let us do it. The neural link process took place in Diana's medical bay. Jake lay on something that was part bed, part technological marvel. Organic cables connected to points on his head and spine. Marcus was connected the same way on a bed beside him. Are you ready? Diana asked. Jake looked at Marcus. The Ravager's golden eyes were calm but concerned. Ready, brother. The connection began slowly. At first, Jake only felt a strange tingling in his mind. Then the tingling became warmth. Then, the warmth became something else entirely. Suddenly, Jake was not Jake anymore. He was Marcus, running through ancient forests on a world whose name meant hope in the old language. He felt the pack bond that connected him to hundreds of other shepherds. He understood the deep love his species had for growing things and living. Worlds. Jake experienced the first time Marcus had seen a dying planet. The grief was overwhelming. Billions of lives ending because their caretakers had forgotten how to care. Jake felt Marcus's determination to never let such waste happen again. He lived through the centuries of restoration work. World after world brought back from the edge of death. Species saved from extinction. The patient, careful work of healing that most beings never saw or understood. Jake felt Marcus's confusion and pain when the Council first attacked Shepherd ships. Why would beings fire on those who came to help? Why choose violence over understanding? And then Jake felt something he had not expected. Through the neural link, Marcus was experiencing human memories too. Jake's childhood on Earth, his training as a scientist, his time in the military, learning to protect others. Marcus was seeing humanity through Jake's eyes, the way humans formed bonds with other species, the way they protected the weak and helped the injured, the way they asked questions even when the questions were dangerous. The link lasted 6 hours. When it ended, both Jake and Marcus were changed. They understood each other in ways that went deeper than words. Your species, Marcus said weakly. You are pack hunters who chose to protect the prey. Jake felt dizzy but amazed. And your species are the galaxy's gardeners. You have been trying to save everyone for 1,000 years. Diana checked their vital signs. The link was successful. The memories you shared are now part of both of you. Council technology will be able to verify every detail. Jake sat up slowly. His head was full of new memories that felt as real as his own childhood. I need to contact Elder Voss, and I need to get this information to General Miller on Earth. Marcus struggled to his feet. And I need to prepare my people for what comes next. If your plan fails, we will have to defend ourselves. Jake looked at his friend. He could still feel the pack bond that connected Marcus to his people. It was beautiful and terrible at the same time. It won't fail, Jake said. It can't fail. Too many lives depend on it. Marcus made that sound that might have been a smile. Spoken like a true pack leader, brother. As Jake prepared to return to the New Horizon, he carried with him the weight of 2 civilizations. The neural link had given him the proof he needed to convince the Council. But it had also shown him the cost of failure. If he could not make The galaxy understand the truth about the shepherds. The coming war would destroy everything both species had worked to protect. The memories in his mind were clear. The Council fleet was already moving toward the Great Convergence site. Time was running out. But for the first time since leaving the Council chambers in shame, Jake Morrison felt ready for the challenge ahead. He was no longer just a human trying to understand aliens. He was a brother fighting to save his family. Jake Morrison stood in the communication room of the New Horizon, staring at the angry face of Director Helen Carter on the main screen. Behind her, he could see the familiar gray walls of Earth's diplomatic headquarters. It felt like looking at a previous life. "You have lost your mind," Carter said coldly. "Neural linking with alien predators, claiming the Council has been lying for centuries. Do you have any idea what you have done to Earth's reputation?" "I have discovered the truth," Jake replied calmly. The neural link had left him with Marcus's memories of dealing with frightened officials. Patience was key. "The Ravagers are not destroyers. They are healers." General Frank Miller appeared on the screen beside Carter. The old soldier looked tired but interested. "Jake, I read your report. The neural link recordings are impressive, but you are asking us to believe that 12 advanced civilizations have been wrong about a major threat for over 1,000 years. "Not wrong," Jake said. "Misinformed. The original contact attempts happened centuries ago. The current leaders inherited fears and assumptions, not facts." Carter leaned forward. "Even if you are right, you have violated direct orders. You were told to avoid contact with potentially hostile aliens. Instead, you befriended them." "I prevented a war," Jake said. "You started one," Carter snapped. "The Council is demanding your immediate return for psychological evaluation. They think you have been brainwashed." Jake felt Marcus's memories stirring. Centuries of trying to explain truth to beings who preferred comfortable lies. "What about the evidence?" "The neural link recordings can be verified by any Council technology." "General," Miller spoke up, "we are having those recordings analyzed now, but Jake, you need to understand the political situation. The Council has been preparing military action against the Ravagers for months. Billions of credits have been spent. Careers have been staked on this operation." "So the truth does not matter because it is inconvenient?" "The truth matters," Miller said. "But timing matters too. If you are right, we need to find a way to prove it that does not make the Council lose face completely." Before Jake could respond, alarms began sounding throughout the New Horizon. Amy Walsh's voice came over the intercom. "All hands to stations. We have multiple ships approaching. Big ships." Jake ran to the bridge with the communication link still active. Through the main window, he could see them. Dozens of Council warships dropping out of hyperspace, the combined fleet of all 12 member species. Captain Stevens looked grim. "Jake, I count 47 ships out there, including 3 dreadnoughts. They are not here for a friendly chat." Elder Voss's crystalline form appeared on the communication screen. The ancient being looked sad and desperate. "Jake Morrison, you must listen carefully. The hardline Council members have accelerated their timeline. The attack on the Ravager Convergence begins in 6 hours. Jake felt his heart stop. 6 hours? But the convergence is not supposed to happen for 2 weeks. The military leadership moved the date, Voss explained. They feared information leaks. 300,000 Ravagers are gathering at the traditional site. They do not know the danger they are in. On Earth, General Miller was watching everything. "Jake, get out of there now. That is an order." "I cannot leave," Jake said. "If this attack happens, it will be genocide." Carter's voice was sharp with anger. "You are one human on a research ship. You cannot stop a combined Council fleet." Jake looked around the bridge at his crew. Captain Stevens, Amy Walsh, Tom Bradley, Lieutenant Kim, Dr. Johnson. They were all looking at him with the same expression. Trust. They trusted him to make the right choice. "Maybe I cannot stop them," Jake said, "but I can warn the shepherds." Elder Voss's image flickered. "Jake, the Ravagers have defense capabilities we do not fully understand. If they feel threatened with extinction, they will fight back. The war that follows could destroy half the galaxy." Amy Walsh turned from her station. "I am detecting massive energy buildups from the Council ships. They are charging their weapons." Jake made his decision. "Amy, open a channel to Marcus. Emergency frequency." "Jake, no," Carter ordered. "You are hereby relieved of duty. Captain Stevens, arrest that man." Stevens looked at Carter's image and then at Jake. "I am sorry, Director. This is a science vessel, not a military ship. Jake is our mission specialist. His orders stand." Carter's face went red with fury. "Stevens, you are ending your career." "Probably," Stevens agreed. "But I would rather end my career than start a galactic war." Amy's fingers flew over her controls. "I have Marcus on the emergency channel." Marcus's voice filled the bridge. Even through the translation systems, Jake could hear the urgency. "Brother, we know about the fleet. Our ships detected them an hour ago. Marcus, you have to evacuate." "The convergence! Get your people out of there." "It is too late," Marcus replied. "The shepherds are spread across 50 star systems for the convergence. We cannot warn them all in time. And even if we could, scattering now would only delay the hunting. The Council will track us down pack by pack." Elder Voss's image became clearer. "There is another option. Jake, the neural link you shared with Marcus, that connection still exists, yes?" Jake touched his head. He could still feel Marcus's presence in the back of his mind. "Yes, faintly. Council technology can verify neural link memories," Voss continued, "but only if the link is active during verification. You would need to be connected to Marcus when we scan both of you." Jake understood immediately. "You want me to neural link with Marcus in front of the entire Council?" "More than that," Voss said. "You would need to link during the battle. Show them in real time that the Ravagers are not the monsters they believe." Amy looked up from her station. "The Council fleet is moving toward the convergence site. Estimated arrival in 4 hours." Jake felt Marcus's memories mixing with his own thoughts. The shepherd's grief over dying worlds. His determination to protect his people. His hope that humans might be different from other species. "Marcus," Jake said, "can you get me to the convergence site?" "Yes, but brother, if the neural link fails during battle conditions, it could kill us both. And if we do nothing, your entire species dies," Jake replied. General Miller's voice cut through the discussion. "Jake, this is insane. You are talking about putting yourself in the middle of a space battle." "I am talking about preventing one," Jake said. Elder Voss made a decision. "I will convince the Council to allow a final demonstration before the attack begins. One chance to prove the neural link evidence. But Jake, if you cannot convince them, the attack proceeds as planned." Jake looked at his crew one more time. They were scared, but they trusted him. On Earth, General Miller looked resigned but supportive. Even Carter had stopped arguing. "Send me the coordinates," Jake told Marcus. "Already done, brother," Marcus replied. "We will be waiting." As the New Horizon began moving toward the convergence site, Jake felt the weight of 2 civilizations resting on his shoulders. In 4 hours, he would either prevent the greatest genocide in galactic history or die trying. He thought about the first day he had asked the Council about communicating with Ravagers. They had laughed at his naive optimism. Now that same optimism was the only thing standing between peace and war. The neural link in his mind pulsed with Marcus's presence. His pack brother was ready. The shepherds were ready. Jake Morrison, the human who had been laughed at by the elders, was ready too. The final test was coming. Jake Morrison floated in the neural link chamber aboard Marcus's ship, watching through the transparent walls as the largest space battle in galactic history was about to begin. Around them, 300 Shepard vessels hung in space like a pack of sleeping giants. Ahead of them, 47 Council warships approached in attack formation. Neural link connection established, Diana reported from her medical station. Jake and Marcus are fully connected. All memories and experiences are being recorded for Council verification. Through the link, Jake felt Marcus's calm determination mixed with deep sadness. The Shepard leader did not want to fight, but he would protect his people if necessary. Elder Voss's crystalline voice came through the communication system. Council fleet, this is Elder Voss. As agreed, you will observe the neural link demonstration before any weapons are fired. Hold your positions. Elder Kree's angry clicks filled the channel. This is a waste of time. The human has been corrupted by these monsters. Then the demonstration will prove that quickly, Voss replied. All Council ships activate your neural verification scanners. Prepare to record everything. Jake closed his eyes and let the neural link expand. Suddenly, he was not just Jake Morrison anymore. He was Marcus, feeling the pack bonds that connected him to every Shepard in the fleet. He was also Diana, gentle healer who had saved thousands of beings. He was Alex, Pack's second who remembered the first time Council ships had fired on Shepards trying to offer help. But the link worked both ways. Through Jake, the Shepards experienced human memories too. Marcus felt Jake's childhood on Earth, learning to care for injured animals. Diana experienced human medical training, the oath to first do no harm. Alex saw human military service, soldiers who protected civilians even at the cost of their own lives. Incredible, Elder Voss whispered. The neural patterns are genuine. These memories cannot be faked. On the Council ships, Jake knew verification equipment was confirming every detail. The dying worlds the Shepards had tried to save, the centuries of restoration work, the peaceful contact attempts that had been met with violence. Elder Kree's voice was shaken. This cannot be accurate. The Ravagers destroyed 17 worlds. Through the neural link, Marcus shared the memory of Haven Prime. Jake experienced it as if he had been there. The desperate calls for help from a dying world. The Shepard ships arriving with evacuation vessels and healing technology. The planetary leaders who refused assistance because it would mean admitting their mistakes. Jake felt Marcus's grief as they watched billions choose death over accepting help from beings they considered monsters. We tried to save them, Jake said, his voice carrying both human and Shepard emotions. Every world, every species. We offered transport to healthy worlds. We offered to begin healing their poisoned planets. Most refused. Elder Thane's mechanical translators made confused sounds. But the destruction was already happening when we arrived. Marcus's voice came through Jake. We saved who we could. The rest chose pride over survival. Suddenly, alarms began sounding on the Council ships. A young pilot aboard one of the smaller vessels, overwhelmed by the neural link revelations, accidentally triggered his weapons systems. A beam of energy lanced out toward the nearest Shepard ship. Jake felt the moment through the neural link. Time seemed to slow as the weapon struck the Shepard vessel. The ship shuddered and began to break apart. Through the pack bond, Jake felt the crew's final moments. No anger, no desire for revenge. Only sadness that the old cycle of violence was beginning again. But then something happened that no one expected. Instead of returning fire, the dying Shepard ship used its last power to broadcast something across all frequencies. It was data, ecological restoration information for the homeworld of the young pilot who had fired on them. The pilot's world was dying from industrial pollution, just like Haven Prime had died centuries ago. The Shepards had been quietly monitoring it, preparing help that had never been requested. Now, in their final moments, they shared that help freely. The pilot's voice came over the communication channels, broken with emotion. They just gave me the cure for my world. After I shot them, they saved my people with their dying breath. The silence that followed was complete. Even the space around them seemed to hold its breath. Elder Cree was the first to speak. His clicking sounds were soft, no longer angry. The restoration data, it is for my homeworld too. They have been helping us. For centuries they have been helping us, and we never knew. Through the neural link, Jake felt a change in the pack bonds. The shepherds were not preparing for battle anymore. They were sharing. Every ship in the fleet began broadcasting restoration data for Council worlds, planets that were struggling with pollution, resource depletion, or climate change. Worlds the Council did not even know were in danger. "This is impossible," Elder Thane's translators said. "Why help those who came to destroy you?" Jake spoke, with his own voice, but his words carried the wisdom of both species. "Because that is what family does. When pack members are in trouble, you help them, even when they do not understand that they need help." The neural link expanded further. Jake was no longer just connected to Marcus and the nearby shepherds. He was touching the consciousness of every being in both fleets, human wonder mixed with shepherd patience. Council fear dissolved into understanding. The artificial barriers between species began to crumble. "We are all pack," Jake said, his voice carrying across every communication channel. "Humans, shepherds, council members. We are all trying to survive in a dangerous galaxy. We are all trying to protect the things we love." Elder Voss's crystalline form seemed to glow brighter. "The neural verification is complete. Every memory, every claim has been confirmed as genuine. The beings we have called Ravagers are indeed healers and protectors." Admiral John Wright, commander of the Council fleet, spoke for the first time. "All ships, stand down from attack positions. Repeat, all ships stand down." But Jake was not finished. Through the neural link, he could feel something else. Hope. For the first time in centuries, both civilizations were seeing a different future. Not war, but partnership. "The convergence," Jake said. "Marcus, can you expand it? Include the Council." "Ships?" Marcus's presence in the link was warm with possibility. "Brother, are you suggesting what I think you are suggesting? A true convergence, not just shepherds coordinating restoration efforts. All of us together, sharing knowledge, working as one galaxy-wide pack." The next few hours transformed everything. Council ships docked with shepherd vessels. Engineers examined organic technology that should not have been possible. Medical officers learned healing techniques that had been developed over millennia. Scientists shared data that opened new possibilities for saving dying worlds. Jake found himself on the bridge of Elder Voss's flagship, still connected to Marcus through the neural link. The shepherd leader stood beside him, no longer seen as a monster, but recognized as what he had always been. A protector. "The Council will need time to adjust," Voss said. "Centuries of fear cannot be undone in a day." "But the process has begun," Jake replied. "And once species start working together instead of fearing each other, the benefits will be obvious." 6 months later, Jake Morrison stood on the restored surface of Haven Prime. The poisoned world was green again, its oceans clear, blue under a clean sky. Human engineers worked alongside shepherd healers and council scientists to complete the restoration that had taken 200 years. Marcus stood beside him, no longer the feared ravager of council nightmares, but Shepherd Marcus, friend and pack-brother to half the galaxy. "The other worlds are healing too," Marcus said. His English was perfect now, learned through hundreds of neural links with human volunteers. 17 dead worlds returning to life. It is more than we dared hope for." Jake smiled as he watched human children playing with young shepherds in the new forests. The Council had established Earth as the center for interspecies relations, recognizing humanity's unique gift for building bridges between different kinds of beings. "Director Carter sends her regards," Jake said. She wanted me to thank you for the ecological data you sent to Earth. The Amazon restoration project is ahead of schedule." Marcus made the sound that Jake now knew was shepherd laughter. "Your Director Carter was very polite when she asked to establish a shepherd embassy on Earth. Much more polite than when she wanted to court-martial you." "She learned," Jake said. "We all learned." A message came through Jake's communication device. It was from Dr. Johnson, now head of the new interspecies medical exchange. "Jake, you should see this. We just got confirmation that the Kepler 442 system is ready for recolonization. The first families will arrive next month." Jake looked up at the clean sky of Haven Prime. Somewhere out there, the galaxy was healing. Dead worlds were returning to life. Species that had feared each other for centuries were working together. It had started with a simple question in a council chamber. "Have you tried talking to them?" The elders had laughed at his naive optimism. Now that same optimism was reshaping galactic civilization. "What happens next?" Jake asked. Marcus looked toward the horizon where Shepherd and Council ships were working together to plant new forests. "Next, we keep growing the pack. There are still species out there who think they have to face the galaxy alone. We show them they have family they never knew about." Jake felt the neural link pulse gently in his mind. Even now, months later, he could still feel the pack bonds that connected him to shepherds across the galaxy. But more than that, he could feel the growing connections between all the species that were learning to work together. "The pack grows," Jake said. "The pack grows," Marcus agreed. As the sun set on Haven Prime, Jake Morrison stood with his pack, brother, and watched the first day of a new galactic age come to an end. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new species to understand, new worlds to heal. But for the first time since humanity had reached for the stars, they would not face those challenges alone. They had found their pack among the stars, and the ancient beast they had been taught to fear had become the brother who would help them face whatever came next. The galaxy was finally learning what Jake Morrison had always believed. Sometimes the most dangerous-looking creatures are just misunderstood friends waiting for someone brave enough to say hello. And sometimes being laughed at by the elders is the first step toward changing the entire universe.